Una sa tanan, gusto na ako hatag og respeto sa ato mga VIPs na niya karon. Of course, I would like to start with the presidential, of course, our dear Secretary Tony Yulo Loizaga. Thank you for that introduction. Daghan siguro sa inyo, wala ka ba, kami ni Secretary, we're, well, I'd say childhood friends because my Kuya Joey, is former Congressman Zubiri, was the best friend of your brother, Chairman. And we would always see their family once in a while. Bata pa ko, grade school pa ko, bigo na sila. And that's why I've known Ma'am Tony for a long, long time. She happens to also be the wife of a dear friend of ours, Kaloy Saga. Sa mga Hinebra, San Miguel din eh. Ha? Ay Hinebra man ko. I was a big papaka na to. Tiyang bana. Marami palang Hinebra dito, Sek. But many of you probably don't know that. Of course, I'd like to also recognize a dear, dear friend of mine from Davao, our presidential advisor from Mindanao Affairs, no other than Leo Magno. Papaka na po si Sir Leo. And we have Undersecretary for Operations at DILG, Lord Villanueva. Yusek, my dear, dear friend from the beautiful, magical province of Camiguin. And I say that, you know, Sek, yung mga kaibigan ko na wala pang baby, gustong gumawa ng baby, sabi daw nila, bumisita sa Camiguin kasi pabubuntis daw yung asawa mo sa Camiguin. Must be the water. Baka yung hot spring or cold spring siguro. Soda spring. Ay volcano. Mount Hibuk-Hibuk. No other than Congressman JJ Romualdo. Jay. Alam mo, Jay, bukang bibig ko pag mga tourism seminars, conferences, even budget hearing, Camiguin. Because, you know, we're trying to develop Northern Mindanao. And part of Northern Mindanao's development program, of course, is tourism. You have the mountains of Bukidnon, the beautiful scenery of Bukidnon, but you also have the beautiful beaches of Misamis Oriental, Occidental, Camiguin, diba? The culture of Lanao del Norte. And so, I always promote your province, partner. Alam mo naman yan, mahal ko yung probinsya mo. To our minister from the BARM, Minister Brahim, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. To our former mayor, is Ma'am Beng here? Klima ko. Hi, Ma'am Beng. How are you? I didn't recognize you. Our sincerest condolences as well, Ma'am. I sent flowers. I hope you know. Your husband, your former late husband, is my batchmate sa Marangal na adopted class. To Mayor Dumlao, Surigao City is with us. Mayor, nice to meet you. And Migz Dominguez, nandito din. Former Governor Migz Dominguez, may tokayo, is here with us. I was just with him last Wednesday. Also, from the DNR family, na nandito po na yun, palakpakan nyo inyong sarili. The whole DNR family. Also, my cousin, Mitch Kuna. Yan. Ma'am Tony, yan. Magagamit mo yan. Magaling yan. Pinsan ko yan. Napakabait yan. Tsaka magaling. Na si Mitch Kuna. Hard sell. Siyempre, kamag-anak, love your own. We have also our ASEC for Field Operations in Mindanao, Ruth Tawan-Tawan. Ma'am Ruth, she used to be my... Where are you, ma'am? You used to be my RD when I was still around few congresses ago dito sa Region 10. And our RD now is Henry Adornado. Where's Henry Adornado? RD, nandiyan ba? RD. And all our brothers and sisters from Mindanao, all the participants, 376 participants, mayong buntag ka na tanan, mayong buntag. Mayong buntag. First, you all know, my dear friends, that I've been a long-time advocate for the environment. I'm honored and very excited to be with all of you here today. I consider myself today with family. Family for those who are trying to protect our environment for our future generations. I have long involved myself in biodiversity protection, renewable energy, climate action in efforts to date back to my youth. You don't graduate as an agriculturist and as a master in environment and natural resources management from UP without developing a deep sense of environmental responsibility. Kaya si Yusek, kasama ko yan, Mitch, ka-awardee ko yan from Environment and Natural Resources Management sa UPLB. And the drive to do my part for the environment has not lessened one bit throughout the years. If anything, watching my 3 young children grow up in a world increasingly ravaged by climate change has only strengthened my conviction to protect the environment. In truth, I do not see environmental work as just an advocacy or a passion. It is a responsibility, period. It is our responsibility, and that one must act on it with urgency. I don't insist on urgency to sound like an alarmist. I actually find it more productive to operate from a place of hope and optimism. You know naman kami mga politiko, we're supposed to be dealers of hope, not of gloom. But I think we have to find more solutions this way if we know the problems at hand. I do not need to preach to the choir. Ika nga, I don't need to lecture all of you because you're all in this room, all of you are environmentalists. I know that for however committed I am to the environmental work that we do, you are even deeper in the trenches of it. And I salute you all for this. As a legislator, most of my contributions to environmental and climate action are done not on the ground, but on the halls of Congress. Some of you may be familiar with the work that I've done in Congress and the environmental laws that we have spearheaded throughout the years, including the RE Law, the Renewable Energy Act, the Wildlife Conservation and Protection Act. And we passed this when, I remember Mundita Lim, di ba Mitch? Mundita Lim, head of the PAUB, said it was impossible, you will never be able to pass that. But we did. We passed the Wildlife Conservation Protection Act, the Biofuels Law, the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act, Ecological Solid Waste Management Act, and the Organic Agriculture Act, among others, with several senators and congressmen as our co-sponsors. In the 19th Congress, the work continues. These days, my foremost environmental focus is to strengthen our climate change mitigation and to allay our fears or our increasing vulnerability to natural disasters. We have always been a disaster-prone country because of our geography and our archipelagic nature. As a matter of fact, in a forum the other day, when I was asked about the problems of agriculture, sabi ko, well, aside from the lack of inputs, aside from the lack of support to our farmers, let's not forget that we get around 22 typhoons at average a year. Last year, if you look at the last typhoon and you count the, letra yan eh, starts with A. Hey, Amy. Let's give a big hand to Amy Marcos. She's here with us today. My dear friend, kababata ko din yan. Siyempre, mas matanda ako. Bata pa sa noon. Kilala ko siya. But I tell them, 22 typhoons. Di ba our typhoons start with the letter A and then end with another letter? That's the last letter for 2022. I forget which typhoon that was. But it is on average 22 typhoons that hit us through the year. Kaya bugbog yung agrikultura natin dahil while you are recovering from the typhoon of the previous year, you are trying to survive the typhoons of this year. Kaya, napakahirap sa ating bansa. And we're not strangers also to earthquakes, floods, and typhoons. Being in the ring of fire, we share similar situations with Japan and other countries na ito lahat ay nasa atin. Bulkan, baha, earthquakes, Lalo na dito sa Mindanao, we have earthquakes every day. Siguro, lalo na in Davao region, maybe we should find out why. There must be several fault lines in the Davao region kasi palagi nagkaka-earthquake doon. And climate change has aggravated our disaster vulnerability even more. We have been feeling this change here in Mindanao. As I mentioned, the earthquakes recently and other disasters such as Odette and Typhoon Paeng would have been unthinkable in the past. You know, we are also ravaged by Sendong, ma'am, here. That is one bangungot na hindi po namin nakakalimutan. Sure, ladies and gentlemen, we've experienced storms before, but not as intensely as this. And this is why so many of our communities were left unprepared to deal with Odette and Paeng. As a matter of fact, with Typhoon Paeng, umabot yung mga bagyo all the way to Zamboanga City. Mambeng, remember, Zamboanga City was hit bad. And never heard of na yung mga bagyo. Dati, alam mo, nung teenager ako, tsaka college days, pinagyayabang natin, no? Kapag hinambog ta, that Mindanao, hindi dinadaanan ng bagyo. That we are the food basket because of that. That we are spared from the typhoons. Now, it is no longer the case. Expect at least 2 or 3 major typhoons to hit Mindanao. And that is why the damage is so extensive. Grabing damage. Ano man, kay wala mo andam atong mga katawan. They will not be able, they are not prepared. Their homes are made of light materials. They live in disaster-prone zones. Kaya pagdating ng ulan, talagang maraming napipinsala dito sa atin sa Mindanao. So, unpreparedness cost us so many lives. The bitter lesson that we carry from Odette, Paeng, and I'd say Sendong, and the countless other disasters have taken lives from us, and we cannot afford simply to be reactive in times of disasters. Naalala ko po, sa Sendong, maraming nakatira sa riversides. You know, ma'am, a lot of people died from the Cagayan River flow because they lived in riverside areas which are no-build zones. It is only through the recent, I saw Oca Moreno here, former Congressman Mayor Oca Moreno, and other politicians of Cagayan de Oro have to put their foot down and make sure that these are no-build and no-live zones. No? And so we have to prepare for these things. The bitter lesson of these disasters. We have to get ahead of the problem, my dear friends. We have to anticipate the disaster, especially with global warming continuing to cause extreme weather changes to melting ice caps and driving the sea levels up. We cannot stop storms from coming our way, but we must build up our disaster preparedness strategies so that we are not leaving our people vulnerable and unprotected, especially in our coastal areas. One of the steps that we're taking in the Senate, and I hope it has the support of our brothers and sisters in the DNR, is Senate Bill number 1810, or the National Hazard Mapping Act, which we filed this 19th Congress. I don't know if you recall, ma'am, Sir Ray Punong Bayan, who used to be with PVOX ba siya, or he passed away in a helicopter accident doing hazard mapping for the government. And I say this with fond memory because he was a member of the Red Cross Board of Governors. Kasama ko po siya sa Red Cross Board of Governors. And nung namatay siya, talagang nag-iyakan doon sa amin sa Red Cross because he was really one of the best scientists we have, particularly on geohazard mapping. Namatay siya dahil nag-geohazard mapping sila sa Northern Luzon. So, my dear friends, the creation of a national hazard map will be crucial in our risk assessment efforts and will inform our disaster preparedness and management actions for disaster preparedness. The National Hazard Map is going to be a multi-sectoral project between the DNR, the Department of Science and Technology, Climate Change Commission, and the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council. And we expect multi-sectoral gains from it as well. Apart from being a tool in our disaster management efforts, We also look to the map to give us a record of the effects of climate change on our land, our people, and our people. Hopefully, with this knowledge, we'll be able to come up with a viable green solution that befit our situation and our capabilities. Of course, there are a lot more to pursue in our climate action efforts. For one, we seriously need to assess the best way possible to shift to clean energy. Last year, while on official business to France, I had an opportunity to visit a lot of renewable energy power plants, solar, wind, and also visit a nuclear power plant. Who knows? Maybe in the future. This plant we went to in Flamanville was a 1,800 megawatt power plant. One plant alone, 1,800 megawatt nuclear energy. And it is powered by EDF of France, and France has about 58 nuclear power plants. That's why napakamura ng presyo. I think the price of electricity there is about half the price natin dito sa Mindanao. Siguro mga 7 pesos lang per kilowatt hour. Imagine, kita karon pila ito gibayad karon per kilowatt hour, almost 16, 17 pesos per kilowatt hour. Nakakakumamigo, si John Malak, anong businessman man na. Pila na karon dyan, bayad ni mo. 16.50. Oh boy. Imagine kung atong energy is only at least 8 pesos per kilowatt hour, daghan kaya itong mga investors, both local and foreign, na musulod din sa atong nasod. So we have to look and focus on new energy sources. And let's push, Ma'am Secretary, we need to really push renewable energy. I was frustrated in our last administration of the DOE because Secretary Cusi wasn't so supportive. Of course, bukang bibig niya, ganun, pero sa baba, wala po masyadong nangyayari. We really need to push for more solar power, for more wind power. The whole eastern seaboard of the Philippines can harvest wind. We can push for hydroelectric. Ang Bukidnon, the source of water for all our provinces in the northern and southern parts of Mindanao. Let's push for more hydropower. This is a future that we should work towards as well. And of course, my dear friends, it will be complex and costly, but given the particular energy demands of our archipelago, it will suit the needs very well. For now, what we can do is help build up the natural gas industry. So, meron po tayong panukala at tinutulak din po ng LEDAC ito ng ating administration. It is the enabling law for the natural gas industry. One of the bills on the common legislative agenda, both with the executive and the legislative. In Japan, which is an equally disaster-prone country, they use all types of energy sources to help them quickly address the needs of their people, especially being such a developed country. Kaya, we have to push for this natural gas bill, or helping come up with enabling law for the natural gas industry, that will give us time that we need to explore our low-carbon options while allowing us to step away from the more damaging energy sources such as coal and fossil fuels. Especially with a renewed push to find oil and gas around the archipelago. Kaya sabi ko kay Presidente in one meeting, Mr. President, why don't you work with BARM? Nandito po ang ating minister. Hanap tayo ng hanap dun sa West Philippine Sea. Palagi tayo nagka-cat and mouse with the Chinese Navy and Chinese Coast Guard. Kung saan tayo dumadaan, hinahabol tayo. But here in the Sulu Sea, I cannot believe that we cannot have any oil and gas resources from the Sulu Sea. Bakit ko po binabanggit ito? I went to a wedding once sa Kota Kinabalu. And in Kota Kinabalu, on the coast, makita mo, ang dami-dami nilang oil rigs and gas rigs. How would you know? Because in the middle of the ocean, malalakas po ang ilaw na parang may sunog pula. So sabi ko, ano yan? Ayan yung mga oil and gas, oil rigs na nasa taas po ng tubig. Ang sabi pa nila, nakikita yung isla. Can you see that island, Migz? that far island. That is the tip of Sulu. So, imposible po na hindi po tayo makahanap ng oil and gas doon ang Malaysia. Ang dami-dami po nila mga oil and gas rigs in this particular area. And wala pa tayong problema sa border dispute. That's why, Minister Brahim, I've been asking the President to work with the BARM government for joint exploration in that area so that there will be income for the BARM, our peoples in the BARM, at the same time, income for the Filipinos, and we will have fuel self-sufficiency. So that's why this law, enabling law for the national gas industry, is very important. They're also looking at ways to rehabilitate the Malampaya gas field. Accordingly, meron pa palang silang nakita mga 10 years na reserve sa Malampaya. So let's hope for the best. We also have Senate Bill number 1746, or the Waste to Energy Act, which proposes two-pronged solution that will improve our waste management while also giving us renewable energy source. In tandem with this, we have Senate Bill number 785, or the Zero Food Waste Act, which will similarly promote waste reduction while harnessing food waste into fertilizer and composting material. I'm sure meron dito po magsasabi, kasi nung nag-Clean Air Act po kami, we banned incineration in the Clean Air Act because there are groups na sinasabi nila na incineration is bad. True, but through the years, and that was 20 years ago when we passed that law, through the years, we visited several countries, Singapore, Germany, France. In the middle of the cities, they have what you call waste-to-energy plants na napakalinis because what they monitor is the pollutants and actually the air quality. Even in Singapore, sino sa inyo dito nakabisita na sa Singapore? Please raise your hand. Huwag kayong matakot, di kayo papagalitan ninyong mga bosses. Singapore. Sa inyo nakabisita kayo sa Singapore, nakabisita ba kayo sa Gardens by the Bay? Napakaganda. Yes. That Gardens by the Bay, by the way, has a 3 megawatt waste-to-energy plant inside the facility. Nandun, pinakita sa akin, we went in. All the waste from the gardens and all the waste from the city, that side, which is the side of, ano ba yung magandang hotel na yan? Marina Bay Sands. Lahat dinadala dun to process for energy, 3 megawatts. So sabi ko, aba, we shouldn't be more popus than the Pope or more pious than the Pope. Singapore nga, first world country. Very strict environmental standards. They allow this technology to take place. This is something that we should look into as well, my dear Secretary. And also, I had a talk, Madam Secretary, with the President the other day. Was it Wednesday or Friday? Sa bahay po niya, kasama ko si Speaker Martin Romualdez. And believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, the President made a hard push for the National Land Use Act. Palampakan po natin yan. Matagal na yan. I've been filing that bill since 1998. Almost over 20 years na. And I thank him for that because it takes a lot of political will to be able to pass that. But you all have to help me try to convince the chairman of the Committee on Natural Resources in the Senate to pass it. My dear friend, hindi ko na babanggitin. Basta si chairwoman. Kasi we have to convince them that it is necessary to finally come up with the National Land Use Act and a program for land use. Why? Kasi dito sa National Land Use Act, we will be able to delineate what is permanently for forest land, what is for housing, what is for industrial parks, and for agriculture. The President made the push because he knows the problem, being the concurrent secretary of the Department of Agriculture. Sabi niya sa akin, Migz, yung lupa nawawala na. Yung agricultural lands nawawala na. Na either natetenga or na gagamit for other uses. So, he's asking me to find ways and means to be able to pass this measure. We will try our best to convince the committee chairperson to finally put it on the floor, come up with the discussions, and let's vote on it once and for all. There are several, these are just some of the environmental bills that we're taking up and lined up in the Senate. But I'm always prepared to improve them further, guided by the expertise of our environmental workers and stakeholders. Which is why I am grateful for opportunities like this forum, where our stakeholders can come together and hold in-depth discussions on the most pressing environmental concerns of our time. And I thank the DNR, the Secretary, and the members of the DNR for having it here in Cagayan de Oro and in Mindanao. Pakpakan ako sila mga kaigsunan na niya ta karon dili ta sa Sofitel or sa Manila. We are here in Mindanao. Thank you, Secretary. I heard you've been here for 2 days now. Thank you very much for that. Having it here in Mindanao. I'm hopeful that the conversations from this forum will help map out the steps of environmental sectors for the next few years. That includes us in legislation. We are always willing and able to work with you all in developing a truly effective means and ways to protect our environment, as well as legislative measures for our planet and for our people. Kaya, daghan kay salamat, Ma'am Tony, for you being here. Ug sa inyo natatan na nag-participate to our forum, in our forum today. Thank you so much. I just want to give you our assurance in the Senate, while I am at the helm of the Senate, that we will put front and center environmental sustainability and development as well as protection. Mabuhay po tayo lahat! Mabuhay po ang ating bansa! Maraming salamat!